A man came to see me who was deemed incurable with cancer of the prostate. They gave him 3 months to live. He found out about my book, Healing Visualizations. He said, "What have I got to lose?" And nothing. They said nothing can help you. So he came to see me, and we did one imagery exercise, and he came back 3 weeks later, having done this work by himself, with himself, for himself, which is all this is about, in his own home base. Came back to see me, and from his description, his urinary symptom had stopped. He was feeling more alive. He was not feeling toxic. He was told he had metastases and so on. And he said that he was really sleeping much better and so on. I said, "You're healed?" He said, he was skeptical. He said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "You don't need to come back. It's over, you're done, you're healed." He said, no, I demand that I come back and be seen again. I cannot, no. I'm not going to not see you again. And I said, "Okay, come back in 3 weeks." So he went home and he continued doing his imagery, whatever he wanted to do. He made up his own, he made up more, he added on to it, and came back to see me in 3 weeks, gave me the same story. And he said, and I said, "You're healed. You didn't need to come back." And he said, "I'm going to go have X-ray. I'm going to test this out. I'm going to do an X-ray, and I'm going to do my blood work because I have a PSA of 24." So he went ahead after that time, and about 6 weeks later, he was able to do a new sonogram or whatever testing was done. And he did a new blood test, and he called me. He said, "My PSA went from 24 to 0.4. The normal is 0 to 5. So he said that's normal. And when they did the radiographic testing, there were no signs of metastasis, and the tumor was gone. So I have to accept that I'm healed from this condition. We did subsequently go on national TV together, the two of us, and he did die 11 years later from a heart attack, but nothing to do with the cancer, which never returned. So there have been many instances. I've been on national TV with people who've healed from the ulcerative colitis, carcinoma of the liver, malignant melanoma, and so on. So it's not just those conditions. There are so many other kinds of difficulties that people face because they are having so much difficulties in their everyday life. There's so much conflict that's going on that's registered and reflected as physical disturbances of one sort or another, emotional disturbances, mental disturbances, social and moral and so on, which are all reflecting each other. So we, in this model, we are looking at the whole person in a very special way, because we're looking at all these 5 functions reflecting each other and operating simultaneously. And then we get to look at another tier of experience, which is the sources. What are the sources that are helping to germinate or give rise to or engender these kinds of problems that require solutions? So when people come, we're giving them solution-based work. Of course, we're not neglecting the difficulties at hand, but if there's an interest, we can go and look at the sources which have engendered that, and from that, if there's a greater interest beyond that, we could look at the spiritual difficulties, the spiritual errors that are being made. Why do I say that? Why do I have a tier system that is spirit, source, solution? 3 tiers from top down. Why? What is that about, and why does mental imagery have to work? And I will tell you why it has to work, because it's based in our own biological functioning. But first, let me tell you about the 3-tier system. And I'm using another expert in the field in which I work, who is the Dalai Lama. I was invited many years ago in the late 80s to a graduation ceremony at the Lamasery in New Jersey, in which there were a number of practitioners who were being taught Tibetan healthcare practices. So there were doctors and psychologists and social workers, and they made up the bulk of this group that were being trained. I was invited by one of the people, who is a Tibetan Buddhist practitioner, a psychologist, and a friend, came and invited me to come to the ceremony. It was held in New Jersey, and so it was in a tent, and the Dalai Lama was to preside over the graduation services. So and I was told that we would be sitting with a group of people who were observers in a ring around the central circle, where they would be getting their certificates, their degrees, their diplomas. But we were not to say anything. We were just to observe. And so we came in, and we were greeted by the Dalai Lama, and we sat there, and the group came in, and the Dalai Lama said, "Okay, give me your questions that you have." And they said, wait. What questions? We gave you the questions. You asked last night for a list of questions, and we gave you a list of questions. We handed them to you. He says, "Please tell me your questions. I didn't get such a list." But we gave you a list. But no, I didn't get a list. Please ask me. And they finally got the point to shut up and sit down, and to speak right then and there about questions that they had. So one person said, "Well, I'm a doctor, and suppose a person comes in with diabetes. How do I treat that?" He said, "Unfold the Eightfold Buddhist Path to them." And another person said, "Well, I'm a psychologist, and what if a couple comes in with marital difficulties?" He said, "Unfold the Eightfold Buddhist Path." Everybody that asked a question, no matter from what perspective they were coming from, his answer was, "Unfold the Eightfold Buddhist Path." And of course, it was very consonant with what I had understood and what I had learned, and I had been educated to know from the realm of spirit. That and then to find the solutions, we come from that source, from that area, down through the sources that we can put our hands on, so to speak, that are palpable in our everyday life, such as thinking about things that don't exist, like thinking into the future, which doesn't exist, and getting caught up in that, and the anxieties that come with that kind of future talk, and how it's reflected in physical ailments, and in mental confusion, and so on and so forth. So he was confirming that that everything is starting from a spiritual basis, spiritual level, and is working its way down through the sources, into the ailments that people are experiencing physically, emotionally, and so on. And so it was quite in line with how this Western model of healthcare really exists, that it's a spiritual-based healthcare system. And this is what I practice and teach.